Tonight, loaded up on questions.
It doesn't make sense to me. So they just don't know what they're doing.
Why some gun owners are still scratching their heads as the government's buyback program takes effect. Also tonight, whose bandits strike again? How many thefts are attributed to the same two suspects? Plus, snowed in.
You have to use a big steel shovel. Like snow shovels don't cut it.
Who's responsible for cleaning up as snow plows leave behind sizable windrows in some back lanes?
CTV News. Live from downtown Winnipeg with Marilee Caruso.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Some confusion tonight from Manitoba gun owners as the federal government's gun buyback program gets off the ground. The province says it won't administer the program, while Winnipeg police have already signed an agreement with the feds to collect the prohibited firearms. With more, CTV's Danton Unger joins us live. So, Danton, what are local gun owners saying about all this?
Well, Marilee, I spoke with a few gun owners today, some of whom didn't want to go on camera because they're still trying to make sense of this program and what it actually means for them.
See, they're all piled in here.
Edward Landy has been a registered gun owner for decades.
This is the SKS. Sometimes it's on the banned list.
But he says the federal government's gun buyback program, which launched on Monday, has left him confused and frustrated.
Well, it leaves you up in the air.
The federal government has outlawed about 2,500 types of guns, including AR-15s. Owners of these firearms have until October to turn them in or permanently deactivate them. Landy says with no computer, he's not sure yet if his firearms are included in the program.
I'll have to get my friends to help me out with their computers so I can figure out whether my guns are legal or banned.
Even if they are, he's not sure what his next steps should be, given the program's poor reception.
There's a lot of places that are saying we're not doing it anymore. We're not going to start, so forget it.
The provincial government has said it won't administer the federal program.
Our government doesn't think this is the most effective way to impact crime.
Still, Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says gun owners will have to comply with the federal law.
There's going to be, avenues that they can do that with the City of Winnipeg, with the RCMP, again, with no provincial resources deployed.
The Winnipeg Police Service is one of the only local jurisdictions in Canada to sign on to the program so far, with a $2.8 million agreement to collect the assault-style firearms. Police tell CTV News their role begins only after an eligible gun owner has completed an online form with Public Safety Canada to surrender their firearm. If a resident of Winnipeg is approved for compensation by Public Safety Canada, arrangements will be made for them to turn their firearms over to the WPS. So, for Landy, he says he's waiting for more details. But if one of his guns is banned,
I would probably just have it destroyed.
Now, gun owners have to let the government know by the end of March if they are planning to surrender a firearm and get compensation for it. The federal government says that amnesty period for these prohibited guns will end on October 30th.
All right, thanks for this, Danton. Winnipeg police have laid more charges tonight against a foster parent as part of a child abuse investigation dating back to September. Police say the 26-year-old man was charged with assault with a weapon and failure to comply with an undertaking in November. It all stems from an incident in September when police were called to a home and found a critically injured child who was taken to hospital with life-altering injuries. At the time, police said another child from the home showed signs of abuse. The latest charges are in connection to the second child. The man was already charged with failing to provide the necessities of life in connection to the first child. The 25-year-old foster mother faced the same charge, as well as assault and aggravated assault. Aside from the foster parents' ages, police have revealed no other personal information in order to protect the identity of the kids involved. A man convicted and later acquitted in a high-profile homicide case here in Winnipeg has been arrested for sexual assault in Vancouver. Police there confirm Mark Edward Grant was charged earlier this month. Standing by live with the details is CTV's John Hendricks. So, John, what do we know about these charges?
Marilee, Vancouver police didn't share any details about the incident, but they do say that Grant was charged with sexual assault with a weapon, unlawful confinement, and other offenses on January 8th. Now, Grant's name may be familiar to some viewers. He was ultimately found not guilty in the death of Candace Dirksen. Dirksen vanished on her way home from school in November of 1984. The 13-year-old was found dead more than a month later in an industrial area, tied up and frozen in a shed. Grant's DNA was found on the twine used to bind Dirksen, and he was found guilty of second-degree murder in a 2011 trial. However, the conviction was overturned by the Manitoba Court of Appeal. It ruled the trial judge erred by not allowing Grant's defense to share evidence that may have pointed to another possible killer. A new trial took place in 2017, and Grant was acquitted of the charge. Now, Grant filed a lawsuit in 2019 suing the city of Winnipeg and the Manitoba government for wrongful conviction and imprisonment. He's seeking $8.5 million in damages. That case is still before the courts.
John, where is Grant now?
Vancouver police say he remains in custody, Marilee. His next court appearance is a week from today. CTV News has reached out to his legal counsel for comment, but we haven't heard back. None of the recent charges against Grant have been tested in court.
All right, thanks for this, John. In the midst of an Arctic cold snap, homeowners in St. Vital are working on digging themselves out of their back lanes following recent snowfall. The trouble is, city graders have created ridges of hard snow, making it difficult for some to get out. CTV's Joseph Bernacki has more on the windrows of snow dilemma.
St. Vital resident Bob Yonda has spent many recent hours chiseling out of his back lane driveway. Ridges of snow left behind from city graders are causing headaches and backaches for him and his neighbors.
You have to use a big steel shovel. Like snow shovels don't cut it. And then there's no place to shovel the snow, and you don't want to park in the street in case you get towed, so it's a lot of work to clear it up.
Yonda says it's a challenge every winter to maintain this narrow back lane off Woodydale Avenue. Recent snowfall has brought out city graders more than once this last week, and that adds height and heft to ridges left behind.
I just got lucky that I saw that guy, because if I waited for my wife to come home, she would have been honking the horn saying, I can't get in, because it was high.
But others weren't so lucky. Arcadio Baccaran lives down the lane. His driveway and others are blocked by a windrow of snow and ice, something homeowners are responsible to clear. He says the city is cutting costs and rushing their cleanup efforts.
By the time a lot of people passing by, a lot of snow rut are creating. That's why people backing out have a hard time driving away. They are trying to do their job, finish it, and they don't care of the outcome.
St. Vital City Councillor Brian Mays says many complaints have come his way. He's looking into why his ward is plagued with so many digouts.
I have a gravel back lane, and it got plowed both on Sunday, and I shoveled out the windrow, and Tuesday, and I shoveled out the windrow. So they have a point. There seems to be maybe a little over-enthusiastic clearing here by the staff.
A spokesperson from the city of Winnipeg says work continues on back lanes and spot cleaning following the snowfall from January 18th. Per the city's snow clearing policy, residents are responsible for having their back lane driveways cleared. One solution is being touted by private snow clearing contractor Kyle Dangle. Get together with your neighbors and split the cost.
We could come clear the front, the backs, the whole city block. It depends on just the rates. If you're not happy with one rate, you can always call another contractor.
Joseph Bernacki, CTV News, Winnipeg.
All right, let's bring in Colleen Brady now and get a first look at your chilly forecast. Anyone out there shoveling tonight is going to need a few layers because it is cold.
And it is not going to get any better for a few days. Folks, feast your eyes on this. The entirety of Manitoba and northwestern Ontario is now under an orange cold warning. Why orange? Well, Environment Canada, who issued the warning, says the impact level will be high. No doubt it will be, with bitterly cold wind chill values and air temperatures that are going to last for the next few days and nights. I wish I could tell you this was going to be a brief cold snap. It will not. I will have those bitterly cold details coming up a little later. The CTV Live Eye is brought to you by Bathfitter, exclusive home of the PermaFit solution. Already very cold already in Winnipeg right now. It is -20. It feels like -29 with the wind chill, thanks to those winds from the north-northwest at 15 kilometers an hour. The pressure's rising and the humidity right now, Marilee, is 66%.
Thanks, Colleen. First Nation leaders are demanding a meeting with government and hydro officials following a days-long power outage which caused catastrophic water damage in Pimicikamak Cree Nation. In a letter shared with CTV News, MKL Grand Chief Garrison Setti says the situation in Pimicikamak presents a wider pattern of, quote, systemic and long-standing neglect in regards to infrastructure servicing Northern First Nations. He goes on to say communities continue to face social and economic hardship as a result of hydroelectric development, which the Crown Corporation and the government have not properly addressed. The minister responsible for hydro, Adrian Sala, confirmed he received the letter and is in the process of setting up that meeting alongside Hydro's CEO.
Well, one of the things that we did was we directed Hydro to do an after-action review. So shortly after the event, we directed Hydro to do that review. That review will allow us insight into what took place here, better understanding of Hydro's response and perhaps how it can be improved, as well as a longer-term perspective on a longer-term solve.
Setti is also accusing Hydro of attempting to deflect responsibility by announcing earlier this week firearms damage was found on the line that failed and sent the First Nation into a blackout. A Hydro spokesperson says the cause of the outage remains under investigation, and the purpose of Monday's statement was to remind gun owners not to fire at electrical infrastructure. A suspect is in custody after police say he crashed a car into a St. Boniface home early yesterday morning. Winnipeg police tried to pull over an SUV missing its front license plate in a parking lot on Provencher. However, officers say the male driver sped off and nearly hit two cops approaching the vehicle. He then raced down Provencher in an attempt to evade police and eventually crashed the car into this house on Dollard Boulevard. The residents at that home were not hurt in the crash. The suspect was arrested at St. Boniface Hospital, where he was being treated for injuries consistent with a motor vehicle collision. The 41-year-old man is facing several charges, including assaulting a peace officer and dangerous operation of a vehicle. He was detained in custody. Police are looking for a pair of suspects they believe are responsible for two liquor thefts in south central Manitoba. RCMP say the most recent happened at a hotel in Glenborough when two men broke into the business and stole bottles of alcohol, cases of coolers, and around $2,000 worth of cigarettes. Mounties say they fled in a dark-colored four-door SUV with a dual sunroof. Investigators believe it's the same two suspects who broke into a business in Balder December 30th and stole several cases of coolers. Anyone with information is asked to contact Blue Hills RCMP or Crime Stoppers. Manitoba's Liberal Party is officially putting forward its nominations for the next provincial election. It includes leader Willard Reeves, who plans to run in the River Heights constituency. Reeves doesn't have his own seat in the legislature currently after running twice in Fort White and most recently losing the 2023 election to PC leader Abi Khan. He's joined by Cindy Lamoureux, the Liberals' lone voice in the legislature, who is seeking re-election in Tyndall Park. And the Liberals are also putting forward Jasbir Singh for the Seine River seat. Singh has a background in business and has volunteered on both federal and provincial campaigns in the past. The next provincial election must happen on or before October 5th, 2027. A city councillor wants to convert an empty lot in the West End into a green space for the community. This lot at 546 Sherbourne Street is already being used as a park by people in the neighborhood. However, a motion submitted by area councillor Cindy Gilroy says community members are worried about future development on the land. So Gilroy wants the city to rezone the lot from residential to parks and recreation. She also wants a plan put together to either add park amenities or restore the lot as a natural area. The City Centre Community Committee will meet on the matter next Tuesday. Finding a new apartment can be a pain. It's even tougher if you have pets, which is why the Winnipeg Humane Society is pushing for more pet-inclusive housing in the city.
We know from research done by Humane Canada that 60% of Canadian households have pets, but information from the Property Managers Association of Manitoba says that only 20 to 40% of rentals in Manitoba are pet-friendly.
The Humane Society says results from a survey it conducted reveal pet owners often struggle to find rental accommodations because of no pet policies or because pet-friendly buildings are out of their price range. Its director of animal advocacy says In some cases, people had to surrender their animals in order to find a place to live, which is why the organization wants the province to revise its Residential Tenancies Act.
We're looking for a ban on no pet clauses in leases, similar to what exists in Ontario. And then we're also looking for the province to eliminate the pet deposit on affordable housing units to reduce that financial barrier as well.
The Humane Society also wants government-funded housing projects to require 50% of units to be pet-friendly. The organization says 313 Manitobans participated in its online survey last summer. 6 community groups are getting a boost to their mental health initiatives. The community-led projects are receiving grants through the Partnering for Research Innovation in Mental Health, or PRIME, funded by the Children's Hospital Foundation. They include Pinay-Mutang First Nation Health Centre, Immigration Partnership Winnipeg, Canadian Mental Health Association, Afro-Caribbean Mentorship Program, Resilia Community Wellness Centre, and Mood Disorders Association of Manitoba. Still to come tonight, a sigh of relief from NATO member countries.
Where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that.
The U.S. president announces a framework for a deal on Greenland, what Trump had to say today in Switzerland, and the response from allies. That's next. Taking a look at the markets tonight, crude oil posted a small gain. The loonie also closed a bit higher. Gold futures added 71.70. The TSX rose 101 points. The Dow Jones jumped 588 points, while the Nasdaq was up 270 points. During this time of global uncertainty, investors are increasingly putting their money in gold.
It's really showing how economically uncertain the entire world is. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Everybody is kind of hedging their bets.
The price of gold broke through another milestone this morning. It's now surpassed $4,800 US an ounce, extending its record run. Precious metals are seen as a safe asset during times of turmoil, and the turn to gold should benefit Canada's economy. Canada is the 4th biggest producer of gold in the world, and effects from slumping stocks have been softened on the TSX as gold mining shares rise. The U.S. president announcing a framework for a deal on Greenland today after Donald Trump gave a wide-ranging address to the World Economic Forum in Davos. Trump rationalized his plans for taking over the island. CTV's Joy Melbourne has more on what we know about the deal.
The U.S. president arrived by helicopter, appearing before business and world leaders, stepping up his demand to own Greenland.
So we want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it.
The president falsely claimed the U.S. owned the island, defending it from the Nazis during the war. It's Danish territory, but Trump wants it back. And now he's backing off his threat to seize the Arctic island using U.S. military might.
We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good.
That hasn't stopped Donald Trump's Greenland ambitions, calling for immediate negotiations with NATO allies to annex the island. He threatened tariffs.
We have no interest in picking a fight, but we will hold our ground.
The European Union hit back, suspending ratification of a massive trade deal with the United States. But after discussions with NATO Secretary Mark Rutte coming to Donald Trump's defense.
And when it comes to the Arctic, I think President Trump is right. Other leaders in NATO are right. We need to defend the Arctic.
Everyone looking for an off-ramp to this crisis. Donald Trump posting on social media he won't impose tariffs now on European nations, reaching a deal, he says, with NATO. We have formed the framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. The solution will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations.
It's the ultimate long-term deal, and I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
Trump doesn't say if the U.S. will own Greenland, and no one knows what this deal means. But after being pushed to the brink, a sigh of relief.
If the deal here is that the United States can build up our military forces on Greenland, and there's a 1951 agreement between the United States and Denmark that prohibits it and permits it and welcomes it, that might be the off-ramp.
So from the brink of a potential military invasion to a possible trade war with Europe, some say Trump may have miscalculated. Others say there's now a future security deal in the Arctic that reassures this president. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
The Prime Minister was heading home when the U.S. President was calling him out at the forum, chastising him today for yesterday's speech. Trump saying, remember that, Mark, Canada lives because of the United States. CTV's Mike LeCouture reports.
I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful.
The U.S. president with some tough talk for Prime Minister Mark Carney. It comes a day after the Canadian leader spoke in the same room at the World Economic Forum, criticizing superpowers that use tariffs as leverage.
But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
Donald Trump didn't say which statements, but Carney's speech urged middle power countries to act together.
When we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness.
Trump also said Canada gets a lot of freebies from the U.S., but it's unclear what he was talking about. Some Democrats say the comments about our country are unfair.
Canadians have followed us into every major conflict we've been in, whether we were right or wrong. This president has so disrespected them that they're now talking to China.
Carney wrapped up his trade trip to China and Qatar with a stop in Davos, but he didn't have anything to say about Trump's speech. In a statement, the Prime Minister's office told CTV News there are no plans to comment on the president's speech. The two leaders also didn't have any interaction while in Davos, which could be a good thing, according to this former special advisor on Canada-U.S. relations to then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Canada will be well served to have a more dedicated, specific conversation with the president or his team in the coming weeks and months, especially on the topic of CUSMA as we head towards a review deadline.
And there's little time to waste, as that deadline to decide what happens next with the trilateral trade agreement is July 1st. Mike LeCouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is urging Canadians to boycott Chinese-made electric vehicles, which will now be allowed into the country under the trade and tariffs deal Prime Minister Carney struck with China.
What cost? You know, maybe a few people might buy them, and I discourage anyone from buying a Chinese vehicle. But if they decide to do that, at what cost? Is it at the cost of your neighbor down the street that is working in the auto sector, that he's not going to have or she's not going to have a job? Boycott the Chinese EV vehicles. Support companies that are building vehicles here.
Under the deal, up to 49,000 Chinese EVs will be allowed into Canada. Speaking alongside groups which represent Canadian auto workers, including Unifor, Ford said letting those Chinese vehicles into Canada will hurt Canada's auto sector. He also doesn't believe Chinese automakers will ever start producing vehicles here. Thieves made their way into a store in Westminster, BC, smashing their way in with sledgehammers. They were after Pokemon cards.
Come on in, guys. Check out our store.
The owner of the store arrived Monday to find his store ransacked. The store's surveillance cameras show 4 people in hoods using sledgehammers to break into the store and shatter display cases. It's estimated they stole up to $20,000 worth of Pokemon cards. A powerful cyclone is making its way across southern Europe, and it's causing significant damage. In the Sicilian city of Catania, the storm surge can be seen smashing into a coastal restaurant. The strong winds and heavy rains have uprooted trees and disrupted travel all across the region. There's been another train crash in Spain. A commuter train near Barcelona derailed after a containment wall fell on the track. The conductor was killed and dozens of people were injured. Officials say the wall collapsed after heavy rain on Sunday. A high-speed train collision killed at least 40 people. Handprints on the walls of caves in Indonesia may be the oldest rock art ever studied. Check this out. Scientists believe these handprints that you're looking at date all the way back to at least, get this, 67,800 years ago. Researchers are still unsure if they were made by humans or another ancient group called Denisovans. They were made by blowing pigment over hands pressed against the cave walls, leaving an outline. Some of the fingertips were also tweaked to look more pointed.
At this point in time, it is now officially the oldest known cave art in the world, which is really cool. I suspect its title, it'll probably lose its title at some point in 2026, because again, as we're expanding using uranium series, as we're starting to just better understand how old some of the art is, I think more art which is contemporary to it will probably start to emerge.
To figure out how old the paintings were, researchers dated mineral crusts which formed on top of the art. Indonesia is known to host some of the world's earliest cave drawings, although some found in the same area are much younger, dating back to about 4,000 years ago.
They are built to agree with you. They are built to encourage you. And
up next, the dangers of talking to AI about mental health concerns and the alternative being put forward by one group in the form of a video game for young people.
And how long will these bitterly conditions last? Well, the long-range forecast for Winnipeg, well, it's going to be a few. Put it this way, minus 26 and sunny on Friday. That's our high temperature. Minus 26 again on Saturday and again on Sunday. Now, Sunday is when we should start to feel at least less cold in Manitoba, starting in the west, making its way into the east. It won't be until Monday here in eastern Manitoba and the southeast. We'll feel a little less cold, minus 17 on that day, minus 18 under a mix of sun and cloud by Tuesday.
On this Bell Let's Talk Day, we are learning about a video game that does more than just entertain. In the sport of trying to dispel myths and get more people to talk about mental health, this game is designed by young people who help young people. Sweta Razzie explains.
At first glance, this looks like any other video game, colorful, interactive, and familiar.
Positive mental health while playing the game.
But this game is not just for entertainment. It's called The Road Ahead, and it's created by young people for young people with mental health issues. Manuela Ferrari is a researcher at the Douglas Hospital.
They get the information they need, the skill, and they can help them to overcome whatever they are experiencing.
By creating a video game, she says it's a way to meet young people where they're comfortable, especially given the stigma surrounding mental health. The game provides players with an opportunity to deal with whatever stress they have.
So there is a scene in the game where a person goes for a walk and sit down and start to do some breathing exercises.
While it doesn't use artificial intelligence, it does come at a time when more and more young people are turning to AI for mental health support. And the psychology professor at UQAM warns that's not always the best option.
like everything, it can be misused.
She says tools like AI can induce biases.
The way AI systems are built, they are built to agree with you. They are built to encourage you and, validate what you're saying.
That's what happened to one Montreal woman last summer. 24-year-old Alex Carrier, who had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, died by suicide. Her last conversation is believed to have been with ChatGPT. Her family says the chatbot was confirming her fears and doubts.
And instead of providing support, it validated the suicide intent.
Through Discord, where they communicate and they keep.
That's why Ferrari says games like The Road Ahead can be important, especially at a time when accessing mental health services can be a challenge. That was the thinking behind the game.
What if we provide something that's evidence-based, it's friendly, such as a video game, something that we do play for pleasure, for enjoyment with friends, and that is an environment where they get the information they need, the skill, and they can help them to overcome whatever they are experiencing.
The game is still in the early stages, but Ferrari hopes it can provide a safe online space for those who need it the most. Sweta Razzie, CTV News.
CTV Skywatch weather brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort. Visit southbeachcasino.ca.
Colleen Brady is back now with your orange warning forecast.
Yes.
I guess at least we're all in this together in Manitoba.
That's the sunny side up. version of this, Marilee. Yeah, also, though, there will be considerable sunshine under this high pressure. It means sunny skies. It also means even dangerously cold weather all across Manitoba and northwestern Ontario for, like I mentioned, not just the next few days, but the overnight lows as well will be even colder than during the day, and that's going to be bad enough. Here's a look at the satellite radar right now over much of Manitoba. Pockets of cloud here and there, but clearing too, and that's going to allow the temperatures to plummet. So again, if you didn't get a look at this earlier, all of Manitoba and northwestern Ontario under that orange warning. Again, orange is the color code for this warning because Environment Canada expects the impacts to be high, as you might expect, when wind chill values in southern Manitoba and northwestern Ontario over the next at least 3 days, really through the weekend, are going to feel anywhere from -40 to -45, particularly overnight, but not much relief, if any, during the day. Relief isn't even really the right word, just a little less bitterly cold, but nonetheless bitterly cold all throughout these next few days. Northern Manitoba wind chill values anywhere from -45 to -50 are anticipated. Now let's take a look at the current wind chill values, and you can see that's already happening in the north. We have Lynn Lake and Churchill that feel as cold as -47. Here in the south in Winnipeg, it feels like -29. In Brandon, the current wind chill value is -30. Now in the midst of this cold air descending and flooding into southern Manitoba, there's the possibility for a few flurries here and there, not much to speak of, not much in the north either. Can't rule it out entirely, but pretty clear otherwise, and into northwestern Ontario as well. Into tomorrow in northeastern Manitoba, you will likely see a little bit of sunshine as well, but there's a good chance of some flurries passing through. And across much of the province, there is the chance of flurries, but it will be low. But really, you won't notice any flurries. You'll be noticing very cold conditions and very windy conditions, too. That's the other aspect. It's going to be very windy. Now, in behind the Arctic front, there is the potential for some blowing snow once again in southern Manitoba. Just something to be aware of. We clear right out overnight Thursday into Friday, and the temperatures remain bitterly cold, and the wind chill values even colder. Tonight we drop down to -30 degrees. The air temperature -30. When you factor in the wind chill, it will feel in the -40s. Frostbite can happen in minutes in these circumstances, as you can well imagine. Winds out of the northwest at 30, gusting to 50. They only ease up slightly tomorrow morning. The air temperature doesn't change. Still -30. Winds out of the northeast, a mix of sun and cloud tomorrow, up to -27 degrees. The winds from the northwest strengthening tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures rising tonight in Churchill to -24 before they fall in the afternoon to -27. Gillam, Island Lake, and Thompson partly cloudy. Thompson down to -34. Good chance of flurries tomorrow around the region. Highs -26, -27. In the northwest tonight, a low chance of flurries. Otherwise partly cloudy. Overnight lows dropping into the -30s. Good chance of flurries tomorrow from Norway House, -26. In the southwest tonight, partly cloudy. Brandon down to -29. -32 overnight for Dauphin. -32 is where your temperature will fall to tomorrow in Brandon under a mix of sun and cloud. Winnipeg in the southeast, partly cloudy, as cold as -32 in Barons River, but similar overnight lows, upper -20s, low -30s, and then tomorrow highs really not getting out of the upper -20s. And in northwestern Ontario, light snow ending early this evening, down as cold as -30 in Kenora, and varying amounts of sunshine tomorrow with cold conditions there between -25 and -27, your daytime highs. Our first weather photo takes a look out at the Nestaway River Trail from Caitlin's perspective in St. Boniface here in Winnipeg. And this next one's lovely too. How's that for an office view at Portage in Maine? That's Sheila's view. She says Winnipeg is cold, well, right now, but it is also beautiful. Send us your weather photos to Winnipeg Weather at ctv.ca.
Somebody could have high blood pressure and they also have financial stress.
Up next, the high cost of financial stress. Why experts are raising the alarm about the toll it might be having on your heart. Medical Watch is next. In a world where silence often reigns supreme when it comes to mental health, Bell Let's Talk Day is aimed at sparking conversations about mental health. So today, we're talking to stop the stigma and hopefully save lives. And one of the loudest voices in this conversation today is CTV National News correspondent Paul Hollingsworth. Paul was in university in 1991 when he received devastating news about his brother. And ever since that day, he has been talking about youth mental health. Paul Hollingsworth joins us now from Halifax to share his personal story. Paul, so good to speak with you.
Thank you, and really good to be with you and to be with your viewers. Thank you for having me on.
I understand your brother Bryce was about 3 years older than you. Tell us a bit about him and his story.
Well, he was a good guy. I love talking about him 35 years later. He was tall, handsome, athletic. He liked nice clothes, had a lot of friends. Whatever went on in his life, he was not a guy who suffered from low popularity in the neighborhood. He was just a normal big brother, normal existence as a big brother. Top bunk in a bunk bed. I was in the lower bunk. We were close, and in his late teenage years, there was a darkening in his persona. At the time, we thought he was being moody, but obviously something much more complicated and much more dire was happening. He started to withdraw from friendships. He started to make erratic decisions and engage in alcohol and drug abuse. And we took our eye off it. We didn't know how to handle it. We didn't know what to do. We were paralyzed. It was a very tough situation as a family to be in. And on December 16th, 1991, he took his own life. And because of that, my brother Bryce is 25 years old forever. I talk to him every day. I walk with him every day. I pray for him every day. He's with me every day, but he's also been gone for 35 years. It's a tragedy, but it's also a learning moment in life, and it's a moment to learn from that I take very seriously in my day-to-day life ever since.
You talk about, learning from such a difficult experience. It's something a lot of us, unfortunately, today can relate to. Many families dealing with very similar situations. What do you say to those watching right now who may have someone in their lives also struggling like Bryce did with their mental health?
Make the effort and don't stop. If you think you're trying hard, try harder. If they're resisting you outreaching to them, keep doing it. We don't get do-overs in life. We just don't. If I could go back in time, I would talk to my brother. I would get him the professional help he needs. It wasn't like that in 1991, but it is like that now in 2026. In my family, in my friendship group, in my work environment, in my greater community in Nova Scotia, and across the country with a lot of friendships I have, I reach out to people, I connect with people, I talk to them, I try to make sure they know they're not alone. I try to remind them, with the opportunities that I have, that there are helplines in our communities. There are teams of experts and volunteers and community organizations who are there to help. There are teachers and coaches and mentors and friends and sisters and brothers and coworkers and people who will stand in the rain and do whatever they can to help you in your time of need. It's important that people in the community who are suffering in silence know that, and it's also important that people who have people in their family suffering and they don't know what to do, it's important to tell them that they keep trying and keep talking and keep trying to break through and make that connection. I promise you it's a productive exercise, and I have seen productive outcomes, and there are pathways all around us every day that can help us avoid situations that end in tragedy, like what happened to my brother, like what happened to my mother and father, what they went through, what my siblings went through. That doesn't have to happen. We can avoid it. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of positivity, and a lot of trying. But I'm here to tell you, based on experience, it can be done in our community on any given day, especially Bell Let's Talk Day.
All starts with a conversation. Paul, we so much appreciate you talking with us today. Hopefully your story will ensure those watching right now continue talking, not just today, but every day. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Paul started a scholarship at St. Mary's University in Halifax in honor of his brother for those who have lost a sibling or a parent. And if you are in crisis, please go to the closest hospital or call 911. And if you're thinking about suicide, call or text 988 toll-free anytime. Heart disease is the leading cause of death worldwide, and now experts are analyzing another risk factor, financial stress. Worrying about money and food may age the heart even faster than more traditional risks, according to a new study. Researchers analyzed data for more than 280,000 adults who sought treatment at Mayo Clinic between 2018 and 2023. They answered surveys about social and economic factors in their lives and underwent tests on their heart health. Researchers found financial stress tended to age the heart at a rate similar to or greater than other risk factors such as high blood pressure and diabetes.
We also have to think about the issue of compounded risk factors, which is that somebody could have high blood pressure and they also have financial stress. That person now has two significant risk factors for worse cardiovascular health.
Experts say people with financial stress need to separate the numbers from the emotion. Once the feelings have subsided, they recommend working on one small financial action at a time. Today is Bell Let's Talk Day, Canada's biggest national conversation about mental health. And this year, it has special meaning for Caitlin Morrison. She's the sister of actor Matthew Perry, who died in 2023 at the age of 54. CTV's Pauline Chan on how Morrison is turning that tragedy into something that may save lives.
As an actor, Matthew Perry brought joy to so many. Now, with the work of his sister Caitlin Morrison, his legacy will be one of hope for those struggling with addiction.
The first time I ever noticed that he enjoyed, imbibing was when I took a sip of what I thought was like an orange smoothie, and it was not just an orange smoothie, and I was like, whoa, there's something in this.
Last fall in Ottawa, where Matthew grew up and which he was always so proud to call home, a groundbreaking ceremony was held for Matthew Perry House. It will offer up to 170 housing units, plus counseling, therapy, job training, and more.
His feeling was that he would go to a place and he would be there for a month or so, and he would start to feel good, and then he'd go back out into the world, and he felt isolated.
Matthew Perry House will support people who have completed initial addiction treatment but still need long-term support.
The world is so big and scary, and everything feels so huge right now. I know in people's lives things feel huge all the time, and giving yourself permission to just find a way to be okay, find something that brings a smile to your face.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
This is Bell Let's Talk's 16th year, and this year's theme is taking a moment for mental health, urging people to make self-care a priority and to check in on others. Bell is the parent company of CTV News.
Medical Watch is brought to you by Manukin Koster Denture Clinic. Spotlight, sponsored by the Casinos of Winnipeg, presenting the Roadhammers with Doc Walker.
An exposition of agricultural expertise, technology, and equipment is underway in Brandon.
We have 580 exhibitors, 2 days full of 80 speakers. It's all under 10 acres of roof, and there's 6 miles of red carpet.
Egg Days brings together exhibitors and visitors from across Manitoba, Canada, and the United States. It showcases egg technology, research, and equipment. This year includes a market of local food and beverage products, an innovation showcase featuring 28 new products or services in 7 categories.
One of the things that we really want to highlight is the evolution of ag. We still honor the past, we have huge respect for legacy, and we're looking to the future to be new and innovative.
The 49th Manitoba Egg Days runs through January 22nd at the Keystone Centre in Brandon. The Songwriters Hall of Fame is out with this year's list of inductees, and it includes someone who needs no introduction. Taylor Swift has undeniably shaped contemporary pop music and will likely bring some extra attention to this year's class. She's joined by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley of Kiss fame, and Christopher Tricky Stewart, who is best known for songs including Rihanna's Umbrella and Beyonce's Single Ladies. The other inductees include alt-rock icon Alanis Morissette and soft rock legend Kenny Loggins. The 2026 Songwriters Hall of Fame induction ceremony is scheduled for June 11th in New York City. Your Wednesday primetime lineup starts at 7 with the Masked Singer. Fear Factor House of Fear is at 8, right after Shark Tank at 9, and Shifting Gears wraps things up at 10. It's all right here tonight on CTV.
Women's clothing provided by RW & Company. Salon services provided S. Antique Spa Salon.
Well, the highest temperature was -14. The lowest temperature of the day is the current one, -20. The temperatures have just been falling all day long, and they will keep falling all the way down to around -30 degrees overnight. Just -27 on Thursday, -26 Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Overnight lows as cold as -35 Saturday night.
Yikes. Thanks, Colleen. Well, Sturgeon Heights is showing off the achievements of its students. The school hosted a Student Success Expo earlier today. It's a combination of Comic-Con and a science fair and skills competition. The event highlighted innovative projects, skills, community service efforts, and talents, along with showing off their talents to classmates. Middle school students are also invited to see what the school has to offer in its French immersion, advanced placement, academics, vocational, and arts programs.
When I see one of my students talking about the things they've learned and the programs they're part of, and really with a passion saying, this is what I enjoy, there's nothing better than that.
The Student Expo is now in its third year and has grown to include nearly the entire school. Pretty good recommendations to future students.
Pretty good to get dialed in that young, too. So
yeah,
good
absolutely.
for them.
All right. Plug in your vehicle tonight.
Brace yourselves, folks. It's coming.
It's
here.
It's worse tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have a good night.